Okay, right. So, a warm welcome to the Influencer Marketing Roundtable. Before we get talking about to our guest, Dr. Steve Day, a little bit about who I am. I'm an influencer marketing specialist, and for those of you that have not listened to my podcast, please do check it out. We're now in our fourth season, can you believe? So I've interviewed some people from all around the world in the influencer marketing space. I'm also the author of Influencer Marketing Strategy, which was published in March this year. I'm also a keynote speaker, and I work with clients on a one-to-one basis about helping them grow and develop their influence. And how I do that is really I run my own influencer marketing program. I'm not going to go through all of the detail of this, but largely everybody wants to be seen more. They want to be able to charge higher prices. They want customers coming to them. It's a very competitive world now online, and it's all about now showing your thought leadership. And I do that through a 5-stage process, which is largely about understanding where you're at right now, making sure that your values align and are all linked up together, creating a personal influencer strategy, and then working with the right audiences that will generate leads for you. And most importantly, no model is ever perfect, so it's really important that you evaluate that all of the time. If anybody wants to have a chat with me about that afterwards, then happy to do so. So today is really about really working with outsourced talent more than anything else. And so I'm really chuffed to be having Dr. Steve Day here. I must admit, when we had a one-to-one a little while ago, in fact, we actually helped each other, didn't we, Dave? Didn't we, Steve, rather? It was really, it was a great session together, the two of us, where I think you did an hour and then I did an hour, and really helpful. So enough from me. Warm welcome to Steve, and you're going to just take us through a few slides, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to do something different today, actually. So how long have I got, Gordon?
Well, what we're going to do probably is around 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
At 9:30, what I'd like to do is be in a position where we can ask, individuals can ask questions of you, and we can really discuss that in a little bit more detail.
Cool. Perfect.
All right.
So I'm going to show some slides, but very quickly. All right. So today I want to talk about content creation, promotion, and content creation and promotion, systemizing it, or how we systemize it in our business. And I thought this is obviously it's about marketing. So I thought I'd try to find something that's really on point with regards to marketing. Now, whatever business you're in, you probably need to find clients at some time, and marketing is a way to do that, obviously. And so I want to look at how we use systems, how we use virtual assistants, and how we use automation to actually mean that I don't have to be a part of any real part of the promotion of, say, my podcast. So I'm going to focus on my podcast, but what I'm going to talk about now will be applicable to whatever type of media or social media or content you're trying to promote. So very quickly about me, I emigrated to Sweden about 5 years ago. My wife's Swedish, wanted to move over here with a kid, and I had to then rethink my entire world, my business and everything, because I'd always been a bit of a control freak and a typical one-man band. And in doing that, I eventually stumbled on the world of virtual assistants, a team of assistants from around the world, from the Philippines, from India, from South Africa, from Europe, and from the UK as well. Having a systemized business has allowed me to do some pretty cool stuff. I've sailed across the world. I've climbed mountains on 3 continents. I run ultra marathons because I have time to do that stuff. And so that's what I want to help other people do. I have a big podcast. I have a podcast, which is also quite big, but I have a big Facebook group, says Systems Outsourcing Community, which you're welcome to join. I've written a couple of ebooks on the subject. I've been interviewed on many summits and podcasts, all talking about one thing, and that is creating systems and outsourcing your work. This is basically what I absolutely love to do. I'm an absolute geek for a degree in computing. I was a doctor at one point, which is why I have the title, not real doctor. All doctors are real. I was a medical doctor. And so I bring skills from different industries into the work I do now. Cool. So we're going to talk about podcast promotion, as I said. But this, as I said, can be applicable to anything. But I'm just going to go through the scenario of podcast promotion and show you the back end of what the systems look like in the business. It's the first time I've done this. And what I'm going to cover now may be a little bit of a sort of a little bit overwhelming to some of you if you're totally untechy, but the point of this is to show you the process of how this all fits together. And then if you need to follow up and have a chat with me, or you just come and join a group and absorb some content, that's absolutely fine. This is the stuff I normally spend about 2 hours teaching. So I've tried to come it down into about 15 minutes just to give you a taster, but really to show you the behind the scenes of what actually a systemized business looks like when you actually do it. And you talked about, I think Nikki talked about nuts and bolts before. Well, this is the true nuts and bolts of working with virtual assistants effectively and using different tools to help you. So very quickly, if you've not got a podcast yourself, or you're probably still aware of roughly how one works, you record it, you edit it, you create some show notes and some promotional material, and then you get it out there. And that's really all we're going to talk about today. How do you do all that stuff? Because what I do when I record a podcast is I literally turn up when my calendar tells me to, I click on a link, I open up a sheet that tells me what to ask the person, I talk to them, I press stop recording, it saves it, I might do a quick intro, and that's it, done for me. I do no other part of the entire process of our podcast being created, published, and promoted. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do that from the behind the scenes, so to speak. But why is this so important is that if you're getting started, it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, it just take me 10 minutes to do. It'll just take me, just 5 minutes, it'll be quicker to do it myself than to get someone else to do it. But when you add up every 10 minutes that you spend doing a task or a number of tasks each day, if you add up 10 minutes every single day for the course of a year, it adds up to about 40 hours or 2,400 minutes, about 40 hours of a working year. So that's a week of your life. Every 10 minutes you waste doing something which you could easily get someone else to do, or you could automate an activity. So you've got to add up the cost saving versus the cost benefit of actually getting that system in place and getting it set up. And then let's multiply that out just to make it a little bit more, hit the point home. If you save an hour a day by doing this stuff, then an hour a day over the course of a year, just by simple maths, is 6 weeks a year. So if you had 6 extra weeks a year to help you do whatever it is you need to do in your business, the highest income generating work you do, could you make your business more successful? That is the point of this, of actually trying to get you those hours every single day that adds up to weeks and months every single year. Cool. So how do I get my podcast produced, outsourced, promoted, or produced, published, promoted by other people? And this is going to, who here, just give us a 1 in the chats if you've ever seen a process before or a flow chart, of any idea what I am going to talk about when I say process maps. Give us a 1 in the chat. If you get the chats, 1, good. Anybody else? Okay, give us a 2 if you haven't. Okay, good. Awesome. Okay. Nearly everybody has, which is awesome. Okay, good. So hopefully this won't be a total sort of overwhelm. I will walk through it very quickly, but I just want to see what sort of people, what sort of experience you've got. So this is how I systemize my business, but this is just one example for this podcast. I'm going to walk through this very simply. This is our live version, so I've not sort of doctored it and made it simple. So this is, you're seeing sort of the real deal. And as I said, it's the behind the scenes look. So I'm just going to walk through this really briefly and show you how this sort of fits together. And then I'll show you how we then use this to actually get other people to do my stuff for me on a day-to-day basis. So really simple. This is just mapping out every step in the process. And the real importance of this is when you start using tools like schedulers, like we use Acuity, or you can use Calendly. If you've done, many of you probably use a calendar scheduling app. So when you book an appointment, when you want to book appointments, when you send them a link and they book into your calendar, that's an automation tool. And you can then use that automation tool to trigger off other stuff. But then when somebody else is managing that, you've got to tell them what other stuff is happening when that event is booked. And so process maps a really good way, or flowchart's a really good way of explaining how all those different bits of your business fit together, so that when you want to actually step out of that and give that responsibility to someone else to look after it, you've got that map of this is how my business works. And so people can actually see it from a higher level and say, okay, this is how it's all connected together. This is where this thing's coming from. This is what's triggering off that app or whatever. And so if I just walk you through this really simply. So this is the top bit here. This is our guest, and they're booking onto our our podcast, and it says they submit the form. And then this automatically by our app, which is Acuity, or calendar booker app, triggers off all this stuff. So it sets up the Zoom meeting, it schedules the appointment in our calendars, it triggers off an automation, which then I'll talk about in a second, and sends all the reminders out. And this automation here is set up in Zapier. So have anyone not heard of Zapier or not used Zapier? If you give us a 2 if you've not used Zapier. Cool. Okay, so Zapier is a tool which allows you to basically get 2 different apps to communicate with each other, to talk to each other, and to trigger off things. So in this example, we've got a calendar booking app, and when someone submits that calendar, say book an appointment, we can then ping that information to Zapier, and we can then do lots of other stuff with it. So we could, for example, like I have here, create a folder, create a document, import all the information from the form they completed into a Google Doc in my workspace. And then I've got access to that, so that I can then just open it up when it's my time to the interview, read off all the stuff that I need to, and I'm ready to do that interview without me having to go and dig into, booking forms or whatever. It's all in the right place. And that then can be then used, as you'll see, to then actually create our editing notes and our show notes later down the line, or be added to those as well. So it's about joining apps together. It's called APIs, if you want application protocol interfaces, if you want the posh name. And it's basically getting 2 different apps to talk together. It's really, really powerful, really simple tools to use to start automating parts of your business. Now, so what this does, as I said, it just triggers off this event, which basically creates these documents for me and pulls all the information out and sticks it into this document. And then on the next page, you'll see my assistant. Oh no, sorry, it's here. My assistant is then assigned a task to pinged into her task management app to say, hey, there's a new interview form for you to edit. And then she then goes in, clicks the link, which is automatically put into it. She opens it up and then makes some edits to format it nicely for me, pull out the information, download any images that the person's provided, set everything up, ready for that interview, that podcast to then be produced a little bit further down the line. And this goes on throughout the whole process. Then we sort of go through the process. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. And then so basically my job here comes in here. This is me here, the host. So what I'm doing is reviewing the notes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can read it more easy. Reviewing the notes, starting the interview from the calendar. So I click the link in my calendar, bang, that's it, it's done. Don't have to search for it anywhere, it's there. Record the interview, maybe add a few notes, update a spreadsheet just with a link to the folder. And then I just ping a message, courtesy message. They should check anyway, but I ping a courtesy message to my editor to then crack on and do the editing. And they go through and do the editing, create the show notes. And so that's basically how the whole of automation to the production side is all taken care of, and it's all mapped out in a nice flow chart so that anybody now can come in and see how all of these pieces of the puzzle fit together. And you can use this for any part of your business, any process in your business where you've got multi-step process that may actually one event then trigger off something else. It doesn't need to be automation. It could just be a manual thing that, when I receive this email, I file it in here and then I send something else to somebody else. But if I don't want to do that anymore, I've got to explain those steps and where everything fits together. And that's what Process Notes can do for you in a really slick way. And it's dead easy to learn. Loads of stuff, loads of information online. It's one of the things we teach, obviously, but it's loads of information online on YouTube and stuff to just get your head around actually using them in a basic sense. So the next thing we do, just to take you through this process, we're going back to now into this point of actually just promoting the whole of the podcast. So how to actually get this out there. And so every Friday, my marketing assistant goes in and sets up this new task to start promoting the episode. And there's various things they do. They get show notes. They basically prepare the post ready for publishing. They create the teaser post. They create graphics. And we've basically set up operational manuals or standard operating procedures for each of these steps. I'll show you that in a second. And so how it all fits together. And they just basically follow this flow chart through. We do it in a task management app. And as I'll show you that in a second, so it all makes sense. And then it basically all gets pinged out, published to YouTube, published to the event, and that's it. So basically, this is the second part. I'm not going to go through it in detail just for time. But this is basically just mapping out every step of that process of them creating the elements needed to actually create the promotional material. So whether it's a blog or an article you're doing, or it's a podcast, or it could be a video or YouTube, then you still need to create all that stuff, find the keywords, create the images, create the text. And so we map all that out, and then I just let other people get on with it all. So let me show you what that actually looks like in our task management app. So give us a 1 if you currently use a task management app to delegate work to your team. And give us a 2 if you don't. So I should always say that. Give you something to do. Okay, cool. So there's quite a few people that don't. Team, and you know what team they okay, cool. When you do, you should use task management apps to delegate. So one of the biggest game changers in my business life, without a doubt, was when I moved away from delegating work via email or messaging or whatever means to delegate work and manage my team's work. When I flipped to using task management apps, it was just like day and light. It was like I'd now had visibility about what everybody was doing at any time by simply just clicking on. So I'll show you now quickly. Every one of my staff has a task board. And on here, I can see exactly what anyone's doing at any one time. I know what they're doing, all the recurring tasks they do each day, week, month, everything that they're in progress working on, all the projects they're working on, pending things that they're working on right now, stuff they've done that they just need me to just check off or whatever. So at a glance, I can see exactly what anyone's doing. And we keep all the information about every task delegate on here. This is the core of what we teach. One of the core things we teach systems and outsourcing is about how to use task management apps effectively. Clicked off there, so go back to this. So going back to our podcast promotion, so this is what we call a pipeline, and we use pipelines for many different parts of the business, whether it's client onboarding, whether it's sales progression, tracking a salesperson through. You might have this set up, and if you've got a fancy CRM and you've got a sales pipeline or deal pipeline, it's the same concept. It's about taking a process or a person or a thing or an item or a podcast in this case through a series of steps. You can see exactly what's happening at each stage, but also know where the bottlenecks are. You can see there's a bunch of things, a bunch of tasks all stuck in one place. You can say, okay, let's put some more resources to get them involved in the project, see exactly what's going on. So that's how we then turn that flow chart we had into something that's really usable, that's trackable, that we can see, okay, this has been done, this hasn't been done, this is who's doing it. And we do that in our task management app. So we can assign each task to somebody, we can add due dates on it, we can then give them all the instructions and detailed guides they need, and we create what's called operation manuals for every step of the process. And then at each stage, so we've got here, so creating show notes, doing our teaser promotion, promoting the episode, publishing to YouTube. Each of the steps involved each of those stages, we create a little video, a little guide, a little what we call operation manual, to then give the person, whoever it is, all the information they need to do, all the information they need to do that task from start to finish without anyone's involvement. So Amy, who's now assigned to this, so you see here, Amy here, she took over from Von, who created this whole pipeline with me. And Von was getting a bit too busy. So I basically brought Amy in and said, like, Amy can do this. And Amy was able to just pick up this entire complex process of promoting a podcast, which you think you might need some experience doing. She'd never done any podcast promotion before. She'd never done any editing. She never created show notes before or teaser promotions, never done posts. She never created images before. But by simply following the steps we planned out, she can do that. And the power of that for your business, having stuff documented like this, means that you're not beholden to individuals in your business. So there are no single points of failure. And the key people in your business that are brilliant and should be doing higher value tasks can do, because you can easily push them up to promote them and then get other people to fill in behind by following the guides and things that you create for them. So in this example, this is our live podcast. It's my 40th episode podcast, and it's actually being currently in the show note stage. It's right at the beginning, so nothing's been done. If we look at the podcast number 39, then we'll see that all the stuff has been ticked off in this long list that's all been done. And now we're just waiting for publishing the video to YouTube, which happens next Tuesday. Next Tuesday or yesterday. Maybe it's been done. There you go. Maybe it's a day late. But you can see, so I can see now exactly, maybe it needs to be chased up. And so we can, this is basically putting each podcast through this whole pipeline, through each of the stages. We can see where each podcast episode is up to and exactly who's doing what and where everything is up to. So I warned you it was going to be a bit of a deep dive into the back end of building systems and outsourcing, but I thought I want to get your feedback on, was that a useful thing to see? Was it just totally overwhelming? Or was it actually good to see that sort of the bones of what the reality of actually creating a systemized business looks like from the inside out?
Well, I mean, I'll just start off by saying that was awesome, Steve. And I mean, obviously, I'm a podcast host, very much like you, and I'm thinking, I just want all of that. I mean, I must admit, I've got lots of steps there, but nowhere near the level of detail. And I think one of the things I love about what you've said is that if somebody leaves the team, or you want to, somebody else gets overwhelmed with work, you've literally got a perfect operating process to give to somebody else, haven't you? And there's no way of missing something because it's so linear. So I must admit, I love that. Really keen to get some other views and thoughts about what Steve had to say. Anybody else want to jump in? Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. That was absolutely great. I did say I was a dropout engineer, but I appreciate a good process. Yeah, I mean, it's part of what I teach as well, which is process in financial planning, process in product selection, process. And for what it's worth, my son is a doctor, and my older son is a doctor, and my middle son is a data engineer. So we're all about process and medicine here. I suppose the challenge for solopreneurs, which is what I've become, and I guess a few other people here are also, is about how much time you can spend to get into this, or whether you just want a Dr. Steve, for example, to get you set up. Whether you need a coach to get you set up, or do you need to learn all of that process mapping with whatever the tool is you're doing that on yourself, and to what extent you want to use whole systems rather than buy components and plug them together with Zapier or whatever else. So for example, in my case, I'm thinking about doing webinars. I'm looking at various systems, not actively at the moment. I think that I got to the point where Webinar Jam was a system I was looking at, or do I go Zoom and just record it like Gordon's doing now and post that out? So I don't know, there's a number of questions in there. I'll shut up and let you respond.
So whether or not you say, for example, the podcast. So one thing you could do, and I actually advocate outsourcing chunks of work if you can. So people come to me and I help business owners to systemize property businesses quite often. But the first thing I always say to them is, do you really want to be a property manager? Because if your business is investing in property, you shouldn't be actually managing properties. You should be investing in them. And the same as if your business is promoting a service, should you really be a podcast, engineer, whatever? So my podcast editing is done by an agency, and they do the editing and the show notes, and then everything else, the teaser promotion, the process, that's done by my own team, because it wasn't a service that they provided at the time, the agency provided. So I just had to take that on. So that was a need that I had. But you could just pay a lot of money and get an agency to do it all for you. You've got to work out the costs. Can you afford that, versus the cost versus the benefit? And if you're talking about, £200 to £400 per episode to get one fully episode edited, promoted, and out there, that seems to be sort of the going rate. So you've got to work out, is it worth it? For your webinars, just come back to that. You talk about Webinar Jam. So Webinar Jam, if you use it fully, it will allow you to do your webinars, obviously, and it will send out some emails for you. But what happens to those people after you've ended that small email automation that's built in to get them into the webinar and maybe follow them up with a few emails after is up to you. So when you say you don't want to connect apps together, it's inevitable. Even if you went for something like Zoho, which is a big suite of apps, the technical skills required to understand how Zoho works and comes together, you still need to understand the connecting bits, even if you're not using Zapier. So if you take Zapier out and use a whole suite like Zoho, it's still about understanding how the apps talk, whether it's through a third-party app or not. But often when you get something that's all bundled together, you're getting sort of an okay bit of this, an okay bit of that. And then when you start actually wanting to get, okay, well, I want something that's really easy to use for my email automations. I want something that's quick and easy, that can do what I want, that has all the features that I really need in my business. I don't want to be limited by what's provided or available in, you know, another app that offers my webinars or whatever. And so you end up then using other stuff. So you'll find that, yeah, you may start out just when you're getting going with, I'll just use what's, you know, given to me here, but then you'll go, oh, but I really want that thing. It really would help my business to take it up to the next level. So I'm going to have to go with a third party app. And then you start getting to this world of, okay, well, now we need to actually start mapping this out so people understand how it works. But even if you're using a single app, it's like, if you do it all and it's all in your head, great. But that's not a business. That's a job. You've got to have this way of getting out the things that are in your head into a way that other people understand the whole thing from end to end. So you don't have to be on beck and call to answer questions when someone's trying to set it up or make edits, or, you know, you set up one webinar, now you want to do another webinar. So are you going to go through and set everything up all over again? Are you going to connect all the dots together, or could you actually get someone else to do it? And that's where it comes in. It's about, as a one-man band. So I started out as a one-man band, you know, 5 years ago. I'd never had anybody before for my business. And then I got into the world of virtual assistants through reading books like 4-Hour Work Week and Life Leverage. And they opened this whole world to me. And I had my first assistant from Northern Ireland, and things went okay. I was delegating by email, which I said you should never do. And because of the disaster I had in the end with her and my first few hires, I realized I had to do something different. And so figuring out all this stuff, which I now talk about and teach and coach people on now, is from being that one-man band, about being stressed out, overwhelmed, total, you know, nearly bankrupt twice, just had no time, neglecting my family, to then actually building a team and starting off with just one person, a few hours a week, and then building that up to a full-time virtual assistant in the Philippines, and then 2, and then 3, and then we got to 14 pretty quickly. And but it all started.
The key is finding the right people, isn't it?
It is and it isn't. So when you've got good systems, you don't need great people. You need good people, reliable people. So I've systemized the recruitment process, and our clients use our recruitment process to find reliable assistants. And it's a multi-step process, like you would do if you went to go work for like one of the big banks or something. You jump through a series of hoops before you get hired. Whereas entrepreneurs often go, hey, I've got a job. Do you want it? And they go, yeah, I want it. Okay, I'll give it to you then. And that's the hiring process. Whereas if you take people through a series of challenges, then you can actually find brilliant people, reliable people, and then your systems is what trains them.
And I have to say, I have 3 people in the Philippines working with me, and I agree with what Steve has said. Process is really important, I think, you know, how I found Joni, for example, who's in the bottom left corner of my screen, is because she was recommended to me, and then Gemma was in the Facebook group, and we just reached out. So, and before you know it, then you get to hear about other good people. But what I particularly like with what you're saying, Steve, is it's not about, oh, well, we need a full-time person. It's about having a few hours a week with somebody. So it doesn't, you can almost, this is what's great about virtual assistants, you can scale it. So if you say, well, I've only got a little bit of money, or I can only spend whatever I can do, you know, it all takes, you know, it's not like saying, oh, I've got to have a full-time person now within the business. I mean, how many virtual assistants have you got, Steve, working with you?
Now we've got 7 in the team. We've been up to 14, but then I sold off bits of the company, so we don't need that many anymore. So
okay. Yeah. So what you could have, for example, you could have somebody prospecting for you, and that's all they do. You could have somebody managing your social media, and that's all they do. You could have somebody doing something completely different and just assign those tasks. What's so good about Asana and Trello is, as you really well identified, is you can see at a glance exactly what they're doing. And it's good for them. They feel valued. Any other questions? Really good to get some perspective on other people's business, on how they might be able to use virtual assistants or outsourcing. Anybody else want to have? John,
yeah, can I add really sort of to back up what Dr. Steve was saying? It was only 2 weeks ago that I discovered Asana, and I literally have used in the past 5 years Salesforce, and Zoho. Salesforce was fantastic for us because we had really full training, which cost an absolute fortune to the company originally. But Zoho was pretty much put in front of us and we had to learn. And I have to say, you know, we had it for 2 years. And I can say the first 6 months, I started to kick back and then stop using it completely. It was just so difficult to use.
I agree.
This last 2 weeks of using Asana has really got my content calendar updated. I'm pushing out work to. I've got members of staff in Thailand, Turkey, and the Philippines, and what we found is, unfortunately, we lost 60% of people because of Corona, obviously. And now what we're doing is we're actually using people doing jobs that they weren't doing 2 years ago. And we found that they've got skill sets that we never realized that they had in the first place. So now we're pushing out jobs to people that, you know, they just weren't doing those jobs in the first place. And we're seeing within 2 weeks just how much more organized we are as a small group. So I would certainly shout from the rooftops regarding Asana.
Yeah,
most definitely.
That's great to hear, John. Thank you. Avril, to be honest, we don't know what you do, Avril. Do you want to just tell everybody what you do? You're not able to come on camera, or no? Can you hear me, Avril? No. I was thinking that she was wanting a question, but maybe she just wants to say hello. Anybody else got any other questions? Oh, yes, she's on mute, actually. Avril, you're on mute.
Avril said no camera, no mic.
Oh, no camera, no mic. Okay, right, fine.
Sorry, Gordon. One more thing. I did notice a few comments just now. Anybody that is working on their own and you know, trying to start out, I've even found that Asana is really good for task management for yourself,
right?
Not just for groups as well, and it's free.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at the start, it's free, so definitely give it a try.
John, I'm just going to come in there because so I've used lots of different task management apps. It's my bread and butter, and you know, we train people on using Asana. And but the key thing about Asana is that the free version of Asana will do you for 6, 12 months, even longer. We've got clients that are 2, 3 years in, they're still on the free version. There are some nice to have in their paid versions and some very nice to have in the very expensive versions, but you don't need them. No. And that's the key thing with nearly all the other apps. You're so limited. Like ClickUp is another really good example of a good, well-built app with some good features. And it looks a bit prettier than Asana. I think Asana is still better. There you go. It's my personal preference. But with ClickUp, after you get 5, what's called a projects, like to show you have to pay. Whereas Asana, there's no limit. There's certain limitations on the number of free users and stuff you can add in, like 15 per group. But we've got like 240 free users in our group, in our setup now. And so we're on the paid one now. But anyway, even before we were on the paid one, I started training people when I was still on the free one. And so it's a really, really good app, a really good place to start. And like John says, don't wait. Like the worst thing you can do is wait till you need this stuff to start learning how to use it. Because when you need it, you haven't got the time. Yeah. And it all becomes overwhelming. And I speak to so many people, our clients, they come and they're like, oh, you know, absolutely overwhelmed, like running around like headless chicken, spinning all the plates, trying to then organize themselves around learning how to hire a virtual assistant, how to work with someone, how to get themselves organized, how to use a task management app, how to, you know, record your work effectively. If you wait until that point when you're desperate and you need the help, it's sort of not too late, but it's so much harder. But if you just start building these skills and this knowledge up little bit by little bit, maybe just find an agency. The way I started, the first ever virtual assistant I ever had, but even before Joanna, was I worked through an agency. They're based in India, so I basically paid them a fee, and they found, you know, someone to do the work. I threw the work out, and they gave me the work back. I wanted something more personal. I wanted to actually build a relationship with someone, so I went and found someone independently. But that's a really easy option, and there's no contract, there's no tie-ins, it's just like, you know, okay, here's some work, how much do I owe you for that? You know, £5-10 an hour, or a bit more than that for the agency, about £10 an hour. I pay my virtual team around £3 or £4 an hour, depending on what their roles are. So you can, and that's a decent wage for where they live in the Philippines. I've done a lot of research on this because I wasn't into, you know, ripping somebody off or becoming, you know, some mini sweatshop. I want to know that what I was paying was a fair wage and could give people a decent quality of life. So I did a lot of background reading and research into it, and I publish that as well to make sure that, you know, and I share that content, because I don't want people to think that they should, you know, they're doing something wrong by paying people that sort of money.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I lived in the Philippines for 9 years, so I completely agree where you're coming from, Dr. Steve.
Oh, good to hear. Thank you.
Avril's just asked about. By the way, guys, I've just put Steve's email in the chat box there. So if any of you want to reach out after this, then do feel free to have a chat with him. And he's got a Facebook group as well.
I've just pinged the link as well. If you want to book a call and have a chat about any of this or how we can help, then just feel free to book straight in, and I can have a chat with you.
Anybody know about FlowTrack? Is what Avril is saying. I must admit, I don't. So that was a simple response. Okay. Anybody else got any answers?
Gordon, can you just give a shout out to, is it Gemma or Gemalyn and Joni? Are both these ladies working with you? And
they are.
So what do they do? What do they help you with?
Yeah. So
can we hear from them?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. So Joni is looks after my LinkedIn. So she reaches out to people, my primary contacts, with a view to a pre-loaded message and encouraging people to either. So what we try and do with LinkedIn is offer some. This is my primary. So we're not reaching new contacts. We're just connecting with the people that are already there. So we are encouraging people to attend the round table, join the Facebook group, or book a 30-minute meeting with me. I'll let Joni tell you a little bit about that. Do you want to just say, and also, sorry, Joni also does the Facebook group. So she invites people to the Facebook group. And we only started this journey, didn't we, in July? And we're already up at 750 members in the Facebook group. Do you want to add anything to that about what you do? And you're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, sure. So I am I help my clients in social media management. So other than what I'm doing with Gordon, I help him with the LinkedIn and Facebook engagement, and we look for people that are interested under his niche, and they can join us with a roundtable or the Facebook group. But other than skills or services that I offer is I help my clients with content creation and then social media engagement, both for Facebook or Instagram, or either LinkedIn also, and Pinterest. So aside from that, I've also for clients who have podcasts, and we do I help them with their from show notes into using repurposing this content into different social media platforms, and then basic website modification, like from all the blog management and podcast management also, and graphic design as well, using Canva and basic Photoshop, and other administrative tasks that I can help them with.
Great, thank you, Joni. And then Jem has been a little star for me as well. We started a new Instagram account initially because we had a problem with Instagram, but actually it's been the best thing that we've done. When did we start with a new one? Was it August?
On September 28th, Gordon, we started the Instagram account.
September the 28th, and since September the 28th, we've got nearly 1,000 followers on Instagram. You know, that is about one post a day, consistently driven. We've got a theme. Everything that's on my Instagram is all about influencer marketing. And so what Joni does is really help with the content creation. I mean, I feed her with ideas and things, but what we have is we have a plan. So we have like Testimonial Tuesday, we have something else on a Wednesday, something else on a Friday. But anything else that you want to add? And also she's very good at spotting little things that I might put in Facebook. So suddenly I see myself appearing in a completely different way. It's really fascinating to see how other people interpret you. So, but yeah, Gemma, do you want to say anything?
Hi everyone. I'm working with Gordon with almost 2 months now. So when his Instagram is being disabled by Instagram, so we created a new one. So I prepared to create a new engagement post like the content creation that is relevant to his niche, to his program. So basically right now we gain more engagement with the Instagram post, the reach and also the followers, and it's a big help to his business. And then for in what kind of post we are doing in Facebook, we also doing in Instagram because it's like connecting with each of both of the platform. So for example, we are inviting also people to Instagram. We should put the link on the Instagram stories. For right now, there are many features in Instagram that we can use. Also, it helps the business of Gordon to get more engagement and reach to more. Drive traffic to his website and Facebook.
Yeah,
So
thank
yeah.
Yeah. We also use a hashtag generator tool as well, which has been really, really helpful. So you're getting an idea about what people are doing. But no,
What's the tool, Gordon?
what's it called again, Gemma? The tool that we
Flick. It's flick.
Flick. It's
Flick.
called Flick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flick. If you want to have a chat with the ladies afterwards, then there's a £5,000 fee to do that. No, I'm joking. I protect them, you see. Right. Is anybody else? What about Maya? Do you thinking about your business now? Is it just you, or do you have anybody else in your business? Do you think, in terms of marketing and finding new clients? What's your thoughts on what you've heard today?
I mean, I think it's really interesting because we actually don't promote through social media at the moment. I mean, we started just we separated the business into an eco side as well. So we've got Brand Alchemist Eco, so that we have been promoting on Instagram. But that's why I really wanted to join, because we don't promote much at all, like on Facebook or any of the social media platforms. And I think that we're missing a big trick.
You are.
And in terms of a team, I do. They're all here.
Are they? Ah, they're all listening.
Oh, baby.
Hey, Gordon. Hi, nice to see you.
We're all here.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I do think you are, because if you think about the wonderful world of merchandise and how important it is as a tactile, it's very visually stimulating. So
Yeah.
Instagram is, I mean, I don't know if you guys know Awesome Merch, but they are an example of a company that is all over Instagram and has got something like 60,000 followers. They've been very consistent in what they're doing. It's you've ideally got the content in terms of different products. And by working with a virtual assistant to create this aesthetic, they could really drive a lot of interest for you, a lot of potential traffic. And I think using some of the stuff that you've been hearing from Steve as well about a process map that you could create together with a virtual assistant, you could see some quite staggering results.
Yeah, just on that, Gordon, like the whole of that process pipeline, process map, I didn't do very much of that. That has been me having conversations saying, oh, you know what we should do? We should create a thumbnail instead of just putting a link onto the Facebook. Can you have a look at how you do thumbnails? I saw this training the other day. Watch this training and see what it says. And they watch the training and say, oh, maybe Steve, maybe we should actually put it onto YouTube as well. Great idea. How do we do that? Right, go and figure that out. Okay, now can you just like write down what you're doing in the flow chart? Okay, let's put it into a pipeline. That's how you build this. If you don't have to think of it like, oh, what's the whole process from end to end? It's like literally step one, what's that? Right, now step two, now step three. So you build these things up as you're going, and you get your team to do that with you. And so you don't need to be, you know, a genius at all this stuff, and you don't need to
Yeah.
think I need to know everything before I start.
I mean, I have this principle, which is trial it, nail it, automate it, and then delegate it.
But
So
that you've got, well, yeah, trial it, nail it first before you even think about automating. So I
exactly.
always say,
Yeah.
trial it, delegate it, then automate it, because until it works with a human doing it, it'll never work with a computer doing it.
Indeed.
There are exceptions to that, like, you know, calendar booking apps and things, but, you know, with a few exceptions, try it out with a human before you start wasting time automating stuff.
Yeah. And Dexter, what you
Yeah,
want to
thank you very much. That's absolutely fascinating discussion. Thanks, Steve, and thanks everybody else for coming in. May I ask, because I've tried to download the chat box, that you can suggest the different processes and the different apps that we have been talking about today. It'd be really helpful to have it in one place.
I mean, Steve, I can ask Steve about that, because what we're going to share this video in the when it's uploaded in the Influencer Marketing Secrets. I think everybody is a member. If they're not, go over to Facebook and join the Influencer Marketing Secrets group. I will upload this to YouTube, and what Steve and I will do afterwards, we'll put some links for him as well, but also some of the best tools, a bit of a follow up.
Yeah, and just
good call to action.
come and if you join our Facebook group and just search for posts, seven apps you can't live without, and there's just ping in, just do a search in that group for flowcharts or whatever, and you'll see all my hundreds of posts about all this stuff. And then feel free to just tag me in. So if there's anything that comes up as you're thinking about it, oh, what was that app that Steve mentioned? If you can't find it anywhere, just tag me in our Facebook group, and I'll just happily just ping in there and give you my recommendation. I've probably already recorded a video about it, why I like it, which one you should go, which package you should go for at what stage in your business, you know, because that's basically what our group's all about. So,
brilliant. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Dexter. Jeff, is there anything that you want to ask about your own business, you know, in the way that you're moving things forward? Is the little grey cells thinking about how you can add maybe a platform stroke virtual assistant?
Good question, Gordon. And first of all, thank you for for inviting me to this this session today. It's been really helpful. A bit overwhelmed with the amount of information. You know, I'm at a very, very early stage of this journey. Whilst, you know, my business is 2 years old, I'm you know, because of COVID, I'm still pretty much in almost like a startup phase, and it's just me. So I think timing is, you know, is the main issue at the moment. And I think I can probably take certain things from today and start looking at and sort of, you know, at least getting a little bit more knowledge about some of these apps and processes. I think, you know, in principle, I like what I've heard today. I can see the benefits of automating. I suppose my long-term question is, you know, do I actually want to scale up, and how much of all of this sort of stuff do I need? Because you know, what I don't want to do in my business is to be overwhelmed by business. So I'm on that sort of knife edge of I need more business, but I don't want to. I'm not looking to create a monster either. But I'm sure there's quite a lot of things from today and future sessions that I could implement. I guess it's, you know, looking at a bespoke range of tools or systems that will, you know, align with what I'm trying to do. So it's been really beneficial for me today. I'm just coming from a place of ignorance, I suppose is the best word to use, about a lot of this type of thing, because I just haven't been involved in it. So thanks everybody for your insights.
And thank you, Jeff. I mean, as you were talking, I mean, even when it comes to social media, you might think, oh my goodness, to put a post out every day, it's so time consuming. What you could do very simply is spend, I don't know, an hour on a Sunday and actually put some content into Hootsuite or Buffer. And that is an automation tool that will literally populate on social media. You can allocate the time in which those posts go out. So rather than having to worry about that every single day, you've thought about that maybe on a Sunday with a cup of coffee, and you thought, right, what are we going to put out? We're going to put a Monday motivation, a Tuesday testimonial, a Wednesday Witterings, a Thursday, and you map that out, and then next week repeat play, repeat play, repeat play. So okay, it might not be perfect, but it's certainly a way to know that you are showing up every single day without you having to think about it all of the time. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, just to build on that, Gordon, another automation tool for your social media, I don't know if you're using it, is something called Missing Letter. It's an awesome app.
Is it?
And there's the E is missing at the end, Missing Letter. So it's Missing Letter without the E. And basically that you take, if you're into creating blog posts, which I am big time, or writing, substantial pieces of content, you just put the URL into Missing Letter and it goes and creates a whole campaign for 6 months, for a year or whatever out of that content.
Brilliant.
And it slices it up into short messages and then pings it out into your chosen, your social media apps of choice. It's clever AI, but it's not that clever. So you need to get involved and tweak the image, tweak the words to make sure everything's lined up before you hit go. But you take a long post and you get a year's worth of posting out of it. It's the business, 6 or 7 quid a month, plus obviously, your assistants can drive it for you. So what's not to like?
Yeah, I love that. Love it. It's a great share. Thank you.
Gordon, can I just come back on Jeff to what Jeff was saying before? So I did warn at the beginning that what I was talking about was sort of quite technical. And what I want to just say is that the stuff that I've been teaching or gone through today is the stuff that we do on advanced training courses. So when you're starting out with thinking about how do I get stuff out of my head, how do I get it into someone else's plate, you don't need process maps. You don't need automation tools. You just need a reliable way of saying, okay, what's in my head? How do I give it to somebody else? And we do that by using video. And rather than writing out process documentation or SOPs, whatever you want to call them, with long-winded description and checklists, which never work. And I've tried and failed at this. I did a degree in computing, so this is how I learned as a degree, and then tried that in business. It didn't work. So one tip I'll take away from today is, and you find videos on again on Facebook about how we record videos succinctly in a specific way so you can give all the information you need. But the idea is really simple. Start thinking about the stuff you're doing every day. Create your own, what we call the personal systemization plan, which is basically what are you doing every single day? Just write it down on a spreadsheet and add it up over the course of a week or a month. Pick the ones that are taking the longest amount of time, that are easy in your head. Think, oh yeah, I could probably get someone else to do that. And then next time you do that task, you hit record on your screen recorder. I've put a suggestion of which one you should use, Screencast-O-Matic, if it's in the chat. And literally just do the task exactly the way you were going to do it anyway, but narrate yourself through it, explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it. And now you've got your training video to show someone exactly how to do that task. That's how you free up those 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, and that equals a week, year, and then you get to an hour, and that's 6 weeks a year. That's how you get the time back to be able to think about, okay, well, let's learn about some of that advanced stuff now, because I've now actually got rid of all my day-to-day single tasks. I now need to know how to think about how to get rid of my complex multi-step processes. But start with simple stuff. Start with getting that stuff off your plate that you're doing right now.
Awesome.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And we've run out of time, as always. Hope you've enjoyed it. Same time again next Wednesday, if anybody wants to join the roundtable event. And if you've liked it, do share something in the group about it, because obviously you want to try and get this is actually one of the biggest ones we've had, which is nice. Everybody gets the chance to have a question or a thought. Yeah, thanks again to Dr. Steve Day. I think it's been awesome, and all of you for your contributions, because that's what makes this work really, really well. So that's all. Have a nice day, and cheerio.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Good night.